Welcome, dear listener, to Whispers of the Night. Tonight, we invite you to leave the weight of the day behind. Find a comfortable space, let your body sink into the warmth around you, and allow your mind to rest as you breathe in. Imagine the calmness of a quiet orchard. Each breath draws in a gentle sense of peace, and as you exhale, feel any tension or worry leaving your body. Let your shoulders soften, your jaw relax, your hands rest gently by your side. Here, in this space, there is nothing to do but listen, nothing to feel but calm. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to Whispers of the Night and tap the bell icon so that moments like this, filled with peace, magic, and gentle stories, are always here when you need them. Tonight, we will wander through the quiet orchard together. The trees sway softly above, the wind carries a faint melody, and somewhere, a stream hums quietly to itself. Allow your mind to drift. Let the gentle sounds, the subtle whispers, and the soft magic of the orchard fill you with tranquility. Feel your body growing lighter with every breath. Feel the peace wrapping around you, quieting your thoughts, comforting your spirit. You are here now, safe, calm, ready to begin the journey. Close your eyes if you wish, and let the whispers guide you. Tonight, the orchard will open its heart to you, and you will walk softly into its magic. As you step into the quiet orchard, imagine the soft crunch of moss beneath your feet. The sunlight filters through the branches above, painting gentle patterns of gold and green across the ground. Each step draws you deeper into the calm, where time slows and the world outside disappears. A gentle breeze brushes your face, carrying the faint scent of blossoms and the richness of the earth. You hear the distant trickle of water, the soft call of birds settling in the canopy, the faint rustle of leaves dancing with one another. Each sound invites your mind to rest. Fireflies drift lazily above the undergrowth, glowing softly like tiny stars. Their light pulses in gentle rhythms, guiding your path and illuminating the delicate curves of the stream that winds through the orchard. Let your eyes follow the path of their glow, letting every flicker ease your thoughts, carrying you further into peace. You notice the colors around you, the pale green of new leaves, the soft amber of sunlight touching the branches, the delicate pinks and whites of blossoms hovering above. The orchard seems alive but never rushing, aware of your presence, welcoming you with warmth and quiet understanding. Step closer to the stream. Feel the cool mist brushing your hands, the gentle ripple of water over smooth stones. Imagine placing your fingers in the stream, letting the gentle current wash away tension, leaving your mind lighter, your heart calmer. The orchard's whispers grow softer, tender. They carry stories of old laughter, of children running under the apple trees, the careful steps of travelers who wandered here long ago, the quiet moments of reflection that filled the spaces between leaves. Feel these stories surrounding you, not as weight, but as gentle companions, guiding you to serenity. Continue walking slowly along the mossy path. Every step carries you deeper, Every breath fills you with calm. Look at the hidden alcoves, the soft glows of flowers that seem to shimmer magically, the gentle curl of mist along the stones. Let your mind follow the flow of the stream. Let your thoughts drift like leaves on water, soft and unhurried. Feel your body sink deeper into comfort. Your hands, your feet, your shoulders, all relaxed. The orchard's quiet magic wraps around you like a warm blanket. You are safe, you are calm, you are at peace. Fireflies hover closer, casting tiny glowing patterns on the ground. You hear the faint hum of the trees, the soft pulse of life flowing through the orchard. Close your eyes if you wish, and imagine yourself lying beneath the branches, the cool grass supporting you, the gentle rustle of leaves lulling you into deeper calm. Let the gentle light guide your breathing. Inhale slowly, warmth. Exhale softly, release. Inhale, peace. Exhale, tension leaves your body. With every breath, you sink further into the orchard's gentle heart, where time is quiet and rest comes easily. Drift now. Let the orchard carry you. Feel the whispers of the past, the glow of the present, and the promise of dreams yet to come. Every leaf, every petal, every ripple of the stream invites calm, invites serenity, invites sleep. Let yourself float here in the magical quiet, safe and relaxed, as the orchard's whispers carry you softly toward rest. A journey across the quiet orchard. The orchard gate. The morning light had only just begun to stretch across the quiet countryside when the wanderer arrived at the old wooden gate. It stood slightly crooked, its paint long faded into soft, weather-worn grays. Moss clung to its edges, and thin vines wrapped delicately around the slats as if nature had tried to claim it. Yet it still held firm, as though guarding something sacred on the other side. The dew on the grass glimmered like scattered glass beads, and the soft hush of the early hour made everything feel suspended, waiting, watching. The wanderer paused before the gate, fingers brushing the rough wood. For a moment, they couldn't explain why they were drawn here. The orchard had not been on the map they carried, nor was it mentioned in any of the small villages they had passed through. It had simply appeared at the end of a long, winding path they didn't remember choosing. They stood there, listening to the faintest hum floating from within the orchard. It didn't sound like insects or birds. It was something softer, gentler, and strangely familiar, like the memory of a lullaby sung long ago. A breeze swept past them, cool against their skin, carrying with it the faint scent of apples ripe, sweet and comforting. The aroma wrapped around them like a warm embrace, almost tugging them forward. Despite the quiet, the orchard did not feel abandoned. It felt expectant. After a long breath, the wanderer pushed the gate open. It creaked softly, the noise dissolving into the morning stillness. As they stepped inside, a subtle shift rippled through the air. The world behind them remained the same, but the world within the orchard felt different, as though stepping through the gate had placed them just slightly out of time. The orchard stretched before them in neat but ancient rows, the trees tall and wide with branches that curled into shapes almost human in their posture. Some bent low, as if bowing in greeting. Others arched toward the sky like outstretched arms. Their leaves shimmered in the faint morning mist, catching the light in soft glints of gold and green. Apples hung heavy on the branches, glowing like small suns in the filtered light. The wanderer took a few steps forward, the grass whispering beneath their boots. Silence surrounded them, not the empty kind, but the full, living kind, where every pause seemed to contain a heartbeat. The humming had grown faintly louder, though no visible source revealed itself. It seemed to weave through the leaves, rustle through the branches, and settle into the air itself. It wasn't melodic, but it pulsed with quiet intention. For a moment, the wanderer felt a shiver, though not from cold. It came from somewhere deeper, somewhere instinctual. The orchard was alive, not simply with plants and wind, but with something more ancient and aware, something watching. Yet there was no fear, only curiosity, only the insistent tug that had drawn them all the way to this forgotten patch of earth. As they moved deeper, between the rows of trees, the world shifted again. The sunlight above seemed to grow softer, taking on a gentle golden quality that didn't match the early morning hour. Shadows danced in unfamiliar ways, stretching a little longer than the trees should have allowed. The mist that clung to the ground moved like drifting ribbons, swirling around the wanderers' ankles and retreating playfully as they walked. They couldn't shake the feeling that the orchard was welcoming them. They paused beneath a particularly tall apple tree whose branches curled down like a curtain. When the wanderer reached out to touch the bark, it felt unusually warm, as though the tree had been basking in sunlight far stronger than what filtered through the morning haze. The bark's ridges were smooth in some places, as though shaped not by age but by deliberate carving. Their fingertips traced what felt like faint patterns, almost of symbols, yet when they looked closely, the wood revealed nothing at all. The humming deepened for a heartbeat, pulsed like a soft echo, and then faded into the wind. The wanderer stepped back, unsure whether they had imagined the shift. But the orchard didn't allow long for uncertainty. As they moved forward again, the air grew thicker with the scent of apples, and the quiet became even more profound. No birds sang, no insects buzzed. The only sound was the soft crunch of grass underfoot and the distant hum that came and went like a drifting thought. They remembered stories, told long ago stories of places that existed between the ordinary lines of the world, places that opened only to those who needed them, sanctuaries disguised as ordinary spaces. They had never believed such tales, yet here they were, walking deeper into a place that felt like a breath held in the lungs of the earth. A faint rustle came from their left. The wanderer turned quickly, heart lifting into a soft jolt. A shadow moved swift and small, disappearing behind a row of trees. It wasn't the shape of an animal. It moved upright, like a person, but too quietly, too fluidly. For a moment, the wanderer questioned whether it had been a trick of the mist or of their imagination, but something in their chest tightened. They were not alone. The presence wasn't hostile. It felt watchful, curious, just as the wanderer was. Still, they hesitated before continuing. The lingering shape of the shadow etched into their thoughts. The orchard was not just quietly alive, it held secrets. and perhaps even inhabitants. As they ventured deeper, the trees seemed to part of their own accord, opening a path where no path had been before. The wanderer followed it, unable to resist the pull. Their breath fogged softly in the air, even though the morning was mild. Every sensation around them felt amplified: the dampness of the ground, the faint sweetness on their tongue, the way the air tingled like something just shy of static. The path led to a small rise where the orchard opened briefly into a circular clearing. Here the mist lay thinner, and the sunlight touched the ground more directly, creating a warm, glowing patch in the center. The moment the wanderer stepped into it, the humming ceased. Silence rushed in, not heavy, but expectant once more. They felt as though they had entered the orchard's heart, a place sacred and untouched. The trees surrounding the clearing seemed older than the rest, their trunks wide and deeply furrowed, their branches intertwined above like a cathedral ceiling of leaves and fruit. The air here was thick with a strange, stirring energy. The wanderer felt it not on their skin, but in their chest, like a soft pressure, a presence pressing gently against their thoughts. The orchard was aware of them. The orchard was listening. A breeze came suddenly, swirling the mist around their feet and brushing their hair back. It carried with it the whisper of something, words so faint they couldn't be understood, yet clearly intentional. The wanderer held their breath, straining to hear, but the whisper faded like smoke. Still, they felt it linger in their mind, a promise, or perhaps a warning. A soft thump echoed behind them. They turned sharply. An apple had fallen, not from wind or weight. It had dropped from a branch that still swayed slightly, as if brushed by invisible fingers. The fruit landed perfectly at their feet, unbruised and shining in the light. When they picked it up, it felt warm, as though it had been waiting for them. Clutching the apple, the wanderer realized something with sudden clarity. This orchard was not simply a place to pass through. It was a threshold, a beginning. The faint humming, the shifting mist, the warm trees, the watching shadow which had been guiding them toward something deeper. And yet, the orchard had only just begun to reveal its secrets. With a steadying breath, the wanderer stepped out of the clearing and deeper into the rows of ancient apple trees. Behind them, the gate stood silent, half hidden by morning mist. Ahead, the orchard seemed endless, a world suspended between silence and song. The journey had begun, one that would unravel more than mysteries hidden among branches. It would unravel the wanderer themselves. Whispers between trees. The orchard changed almost immediately as the wanderer walked deeper between the rows of apple trees. The air felt thicker, warmer, yet touched by an unseen chill, like stepping into a room where someone had recently left. The lingering sense of presence without a body. The mist that drifted low across the orchard floor took on a faint glow, as if touched by hidden moonlight, though the sun had already risen. It curled around ankles and brushed against the hems of their clothes, swirling away only when they stepped forward, almost as if it were alive and curious. The trees grew taller, their trunks gnarled and wide, some splitting into 2 or 3 branches only a little above the ground before twisting upward like raised arms seeking the sky. Their leaves whispered without wind, rustling softly even when the air stood completely still. The wanderer paused, listening, trying to determine whether it was the leaves themselves making those sounds, or whether the sounds were hiding inside them. At first, the murmur was faint, something between a sigh and a hum, easily dismissed as wind. But then something shifted. A pattern rose beneath the rustling, a rhythm, a tone. The wanderer tilted their head, listening more closely, and slowly the whispering separated from the leaves. It took on shape. Soft, breathy syllables drifted through the branches, floating from tree to tree like wandering thoughts. Not forgotten, the wanderer stopped walking. Their heart thumped once, sharply. There was no mistake. Those were words, human words, spoken in a voice that was not fully heard but deeply felt, like an old memory tugging at the edges of the mind. The orchard fell very still then, as though observing their reaction. They turned slowly, scanning the surrounding trees. Nothing moved. No figure stood between the rows, only light, leaf, branch, and mist. Yet the whisper had been close, impossibly close, as though someone had spoken directly beside their ear. A shiver rippled down their spine, not of fear, but of recognition, the kind that comes when you feel something familiar without knowing why. They took another step. The whispers returned. Left here long ago, waited for her. Don't let it fade. The voices overlapped gently, so quietly that they could almost be dismissed as imagination, except imagination never felt so real, so textured. These whispers seemed to carry emotion of their own longing, remembrance, a wistfulness older than the orchard itself. The wanderer swallowed hard, their throat tightening slightly. They steadied themselves with a hand against the nearest tree trunk. The bark was warmer than expected, radiating a slow, gentle heat like a hearthstone that had been glowing through the night. Their fingertips tingled as they traced the grooves in the wood, noticing that the patterns looked too deliberate to be shaped by nature. Curved lines, almost like old letters or symbols, softened with time, melded into the texture of the tree. Just as they leaned closer, another whisper rose clearer than the rest. This way, the wanderer turned sharply toward the voice. It had come from deeper within the orchard, carried not through the air, but through the very stillness itself. Without thinking, they stepped toward it. As they walked, the mist shifted, partying gently before them. The trees seemed to lean inward, just a fraction, as though guiding them or urging them toward something hidden. Shadows danced faintly between the trunks, brief and uncertain, like flashes of movement glimpsed from the corner of one's eye. The wanderer kept turning to catch them, but each time the shadow vanished too quickly. They were not alone here, whether that truth stirred comfort or unease. The wanderer could not yet tell. Further ahead, the orchard widened slightly into a small clearing where sunlight passed through the branches in long, warm beams. The light caught dust and pollen in the air, turning them into floating specks of gold. As the wanderer stepped into the glow, the whispers quieted, replaced by a different sound entirely, faint, distant laughter, not the eerie kind, not ghostly, not sharp, but light, pure, and nostalgic, barely audible, like a memory replaying. From a faraway summer dot, the wanderer's breath caught in their chest. a little girl's laugh. It rang through the orchard for only a second before fading, abruptly swallowed by the whispering leaves. The wanderer stared at the space where the sound had seemed to originate, expecting, hoping to see someone. But there was only a row of apple trees standing silently, branches heavy with ripening fruit. The orchard knew stories, held stories, remembered stories, and sometimes it seemed eager to share them. She climbed this tree every morning. He carved his name there. Don't forget us. The whispers rose again, twirling between leaves like threads of air. The wanderer felt a tug at their heart, an ache so subtle it took a moment to understand it. This place was filled with memories, but not their own, and yet the orchard spoke as if it recognized them. They moved toward a tree whose trunk curled inward like a welcoming arm. Something about it felt important. Kneeling slightly, they traced their fingertips over a shallow carving in the bark. Most of it had faded, worn down by time and weather, but they could still make out traces of letters, perhaps initials, a name, a date, something once precious to someone who had stood exactly where the wanderer stood now. As their finger pressed against the faint carving, the orchard responded. A whisper shuddered through the leaves, but this time it was sharp, urgent. Turn, the wanderer froze. Slowly, they lifted their head at the far edge of the clearing. Half shrouded in pale mist, a figure stood between two trees. The wanderer's breath hitched painfully. The figure was more distinct this time, more solid than the flickers glimpsed. Earlier, from this distance, they could see the outline clearly, a tall, slender silhouette standing perfectly still. The mist clung to their form as though trying to pull them back into hiding. For several seconds, neither moved. The wanderer felt an overwhelming pull in their chest, a mixture of curiosity, fear, and a strange familiarity, as if some deep part of them recognized the figure, even though they couldn't see a face. Their heart beat steadily, loudly, drowning out even the whispers. They took one cautious step forward. The figure responded, not by stepping back, not by vanishing, but by raising a hand, slowly, almost gently. A gesture that could have meant greeting, warning, or simply acknowledgement. The wanderer opened their mouth to speak, though they didn't know what word might come out. But before sound could form, the orchard intervened. The mist thickened abruptly, swirling like stirred water. It rose in a sudden wave around the figure, enveloping them in white. The shape blurred, softened, dissolved. Within heartbeats, the figure disappeared completely. The orchard let out a low sigh through its leaves. A collective exhale. The wanderer stood frozen, staring at the place where the figure had been. Confusion gripped them first, then certainty. The orchard had revealed something deliberately, a glimpse, not a revelation, a reminder that deeper truths lay ahead, but not yet within reach. They waited, hoping the figure might return, but the orchard offered only silence. A soft whisper drifted past them, almost apologetic. Not yet. The words were so gentle, so full of promise, that the wanderer felt a strange warmth settle into their chest. Whatever the orchard held, whoever that figure was, the time to understand had not yet come. They gathered themselves with a slow, grounding breath and continued walking. The orchard shifted once more, as if pleased with their persistence. The whispers returned, now forming a soft chorus, fragments overlapping, blending into something like a quiet symphony of memories. He left a note under the stone she promised she'd return in spring. They held hands here, Someone cried beneath this tree. Each whisper carried a story, some filled with joy, others with sorrow so deep the wanderer felt it echo in their bones. The orchard remembered everything, not in a cruel way, but in a way that refused to let the past disappear. It held memories with tenderness, with reverence. The deeper the wanderer went, the more they felt as though they were walking inside. The memories of strangers, each whisper slipping into their mind like a delicate thread weaving into cloth. Then, as they reached another bend, something shifted again, not in sound, but in feeling. The air thickened with expectation. The trees ahead bent inward like a doorway formed by nature's hands. The orchard was urging them forward, and the wanderer went, heart steady, breath slow, ready to follow the whispers wherever they led, knowing now that the orchard was alive, with voices, shadows, and secrets waiting to unfold in ways they had only begun to understand. The hidden stream. The orchard narrowed into a soft corridor of trees, their branches gently arching overhead like the beams of an ancient hallway. The wanderer followed the subtle pull of the whispers, though they had softened now, drifting behind the leaves like fading echoes. The air still carried the orchard's strange warmth, but now there was something else woven into it, a coolness, barely noticeable, almost playful as it brushed the wanderer's cheek. It felt like the air before a small discovery, a secret waiting just beyond sight. The ground dipped slightly, and the grass grew shorter, more delicate. The wanderer stepped carefully, noticing how the soil grew softer underfoot, as though moist. From something nearby, the faint coolness in the air became stronger. Then they heard it, a soft, musical trickle. Water, the orchard, for all its whispers and shifting mist, had been dry until now. No streams, no ponds, not even a patch of damp earth. So the sound came as a surprise, a gentle, flowing whisper that mingled with the rustling leaves. The wanderer felt a moment of hesitation, their breath pausing as if the orchard held it for them. Then they followed the sound. The trees slowly parted into a clearing unlike any other they had seen so far. A narrow stream wound through the center, its water impossibly clear, shining like strands of glass. Light filtered through the branches above and danced along the surface, scattering into tiny rainbows. Smooth stones lined the edges, some moss-covered, others pale and round like river pearls. The air here felt softer, sweeter, carrying hints of cool earth and fresh water. Mixing with the orchard's ever-present apple scent, the wanderer stepped closer. The water ran so quietly that its voice felt like another whisper, one with no words. They knelt beside the stream, dipping their fingers into the water. It was cool, but not cold, refreshing in a way that felt almost unreal, as if the water itself held memory, and touching it connected them to something ancient and patient. A small leaf floated past, turning lazily in the current. It was golden, as though touched by autumn, even though the rest of the orchard showed no signs of the season. When the wanderer touched the leaf, it dissolved into the water in a single shimmer, disappearing like a fading dream. They blinked, startled, then looked around the clearing once more. Something else caught their eye. A small object nestled against a stone further down the stream, half hidden by a patch of moss. They rose and walked along the bank, brushing aside a thin curtain of vines. The object was simple, a ribbon, faded blue, tied into a loose knot. They picked it up gently. As soon as their fingers touched the fabric, the orchard seemed to exhale. The breeze shifted. The leaves swayed in unison as though stirred by a memory. For a fleeting moment, a voice whispered beside them, a child's voice, soft and wistful. My favorite one. The wanderer's chest tightened. They looked at the ribbon again, running it through their fingers. It felt fragile, worn from time, and yet somehow warm, as though it had not been lying forgotten, but waiting. They placed the ribbon carefully in their pocket, unsure why, but feeling instinctively that leaving it behind would be wrong. As they straightened, something glimmered near the roots of a tree across the stream. The wanderer stepped over the narrow water, the stones firm beneath their boots. There, nestled between two thick roots, lay a small notebook with a weathered cover. Its edges were frayed, and the once dark color had faded to a dusty brown. Moss had crept over one corner, but the rest looked strangely intact. The wanderer hesitated before picking it up. When they did, they felt a faint pulse, not like a heartbeat, but like the thrum of a distant memory awakening. They opened the cover slowly. The first page held a few faint lines, written in a careful, looping hand. The orchard remembers. If you listen, it shows you what you've forgotten. The wanderer stared at the words, their throat tightening. They turned the next page. More writing notes, sketches of leaves and trees, fragments of thoughts. But some pages were blank, as though the writer had paused mid-sentence and never returned. A sudden whisper rose behind them. She never finished. The wanderer turned sharply, scanning the clearing. Nothing, only soft mist drifting above the stream. They closed the notebook carefully, holding it close to their chest. 2 tokens within minutes, the ribbon, the notebook, sacred, forgotten pieces from lives that had touched the orchard. The wanderer looked around again, this time with more awareness. Now they saw things they hadn't noticed when they first entered the clearing. A small, pressed flower caught between stones. A tiny wooden figure leaning against a tree root. A piece of fabric snagged on a branch overhead. None of the objects felt random. They felt left behind deliberately, as though each belonged to a story the orchard still held tightly. The wanderer crouched by the pressed flower, lifting it with gentle fingers. The petals were dry, pale, fragile. As they turned it, the orchard seemed to respond once more. A soft sigh rippled through the branches. He waited. Here the words carried loneliness, devotion, a lingering ache that spoke of someone who had stayed in this clearing far longer than they should have, holding on to hope that never arrived. The wanderer placed the flower back, pressing it gently into the soft earth where it had rested. They whispered a soft apology, though they did not fully understand for whom they spoke. The orchard was not merely a place of beauty, it was a sanctuary for memories, tender, painful, forgotten, cherished. The hidden stream felt like the heart of those memories, its quiet waters carrying stories that never found endings. The wanderer walked along the edge of the stream, following the gentle curves. With each step, the air shifted subtly, as if guiding them toward something else. The mist thickened near the far end, hovering just above the water, like a pale veil. As they approached, they noticed a set of stones placed unusually, not naturally, scattered but arranged. 3 stones, then 2, then 1. A path. The wanderer followed, stepping lightly. The stones were smooth beneath their boots, warm despite the cool water brushing their sides. The mist began to swirl higher around them, rising from the stream in delicate tendrils. When they reached the final stone, the mist parted suddenly like curtains drawn aside. Behind it lay a small alcove of trees, forming a natural shelter. The branches intertwined above like woven fingers, creating a dim, softly lit hollow dot. In the center lay a final object, a silver pendant shaped like a teardrop, lying on a bed of moss. The wanderer stepped slowly toward it, breath steadying. As they reached for the pendant, the orchard fell silent, completely silent. Even the stream seemed to pause. Their fingers closed around the pendant. A sudden wave of emotion surged through them, not their own, but something deep, old, sorrowful. A whisper rose directly beside their ear, the closest one yet. She promised she would return. The wanderer's breath trembled. The pendant was cool, smooth, and engraved with tiny, intricate patterns. They turned it over, searching for clues, but the orchard gave none. And then footsteps, not their own, soft, deliberate, behind them. The wanderer turned quickly, heart thundering. Between the bending branches, half sculpted by mist and shadow, stood the figure again, closer than before, still indistinct, but undeniably they're tall, slender, still. The wanderer couldn't breathe. They felt the stream's cool breeze against their back, grounding them. This time the figure did not raise a hand. They seemed rooted in place, as though caught between appearing and vanishing. The mist clung to them like a second skin, swirling in faint patterns around their form. A whisper rose, but not from the orchard, from the figure. Not ready. The voice was soft, almost broken, carrying an emotion the wanderer couldn't place. Longing, regret, fear, love, or all of them blended into one. Before the wanderer could respond, before they could ask who the figure was, what they wanted, why they watched, the mist surged again and pulled the figure backward, dissolving them into pale nothingness. The wanderer stood frozen, pendant clenched in their palm. The orchard slowly exhaled, the stream resumed its gentle flow, and the whispers returned as though nothing had happened. But something had. The figure had spoken. With a shaking breath, the wanderer tucked the pendant safely away with the ribbon and notebook. 3 tokens, 3 stories, 3 threads weaving into the orchard's deeper mystery. As they left the alcove and stepped back toward the main stream, the orchard whispered softly, not fragments this time, but a single word carried gently on the breeze. Continue, and the wanderer did, knowing the orchard would only reveal its truth piece by piece, and that every answer waited somewhere deeper within its quiet, whispering heart. The orchard keeper. The orchard shifted again as the wanderer moved away from the hidden stream. The air warmed, though a gentle coolness lingered on their skin from the water. The whispers drifted softly, now distant but insistent. like faraway bells chiming through layers of leaves. Each step felt guided, as if the orchard gently pressed at their back, urging them forward into a part of itself it did not reveal to everyone. The tokens they carried, the ribbon, the notebook, the pendant, felt heavier with every step, not physically, but with meaning they had not yet unraveled. The wanderer could feel their weight against their chest, tucked safely inside their coat, touching their heartbeat. Every time they breathed in, the scent of apples mingled with something new, a faint warmth, like the aroma of sunbathed wood. The trees grew farther apart now, their branches reaching wider, as if stretching toward something sacred. The mist thinned into soft veils, allowing sunlight to spill across the path in gentle waves. There was a hush, not of silence, but of anticipation, the orchard holding its breath again. The wanderer felt it too, the subtle shift in atmosphere. They were approaching something important. The path curved into a slow arc, and as they rounded it, the orchard opened into a wide clearing, unlike any they had seen before. Sunlight poured directly into it, turning the grass into a golden carpet. Wildflowers bloomed along the edges, small and bright, soft whites, pale yellows, faint pinks that swayed even without wind. And there, at the center of the clearing, stood someone. The wanderer froze, breath catching sharply. The figure was neither a silhouette nor a shadow, not mist, not memory. They were real, solid, present, standing with quiet dignity beneath the tallest apple tree in the clearing, the orchard keeper. The title rose in the wanderer's mind unbidden, as if the orchard itself whispered it. The keeper looked up slowly, as though emerging from a long thought. Their features were gentle, softened by time, yet not old. Their hair fell to their shoulders, streaked with strands of silver that shimmered in the light. Their clothing was simple, woven fabrics in earthy tones, textured like the bark of the trees. Their eyes, when they met the wanderers, were deep and calm. Reflecting the orchard's quiet wisdom, they smiled, not as a stranger greeting a stranger, but as one who had expected this meeting for a very long time. "You've come far," the keeper said. Their voice was soft, warm, and steady, like water flowing over smooth stones. The orchard rarely shows so much to someone who arrives without understanding. The wanderer swallowed, stepping closer. The keeper's presence felt like standing beside a warm fire in winter, comforting, grounding, yet powerful in a way that demanded respect. "I didn't mean to disturb anything," the wanderer said quietly. "I only followed the whispers." "The orchard invited you," the keeper replied. "It chose to reveal what lies beneath its quiet surface. It does not do so lightly." The wanderer hesitated, glancing around the clearing. "Is this your home?" they asked. The keeper's smile deepened with a sadness that felt ancient. "In a way," they said, "I belong to the orchard as much as it belongs to me. I am its watcher, its listener, its guide when needed." Their gaze fell to the wanderer's coat, to the faint outline of the tokens hidden inside. "You've found pieces of stories," the keeper continued, "fragments left behind by those who came before you. The orchard remembers them, holds them, protects them, but memories can burden as much as they comfort." The wanderer felt their heartbeat quicken. "Why show them to me?" "Because you are searching," the keeper replied gently, "for something you've carried too long without looking at it. The orchard only echoes what lies inside you." The wanderer opened their mouth to speak, to ask what that meant, but the orchard itself interrupted. A hush swept through the clearing. The leaves above the keeper rustled all at once, whispering in low, harmonious tones, like a choir rising slowly into song. The breeze circled the wanderer, brushing their cheeks, lifting strands of their hair. The keeper lifted a hand slightly. "It senses your questions," they said, "but not all answers are given freely. Some must be found within." The wanderer felt heat rush into their chest, a tightness, a pressure they had ignored for longer than they could guess. The orchard's whispers had stirred old emotions, but the keeper's presence pressed them to the surface. The keeper stepped closer, their steps silent against the soft grass. "You've seen the shadows," they said softly, "the figure in the mist." The wanderer's breath caught. "You know about them." "I know," the keeper said, voice gentle. "But what you saw was not meant to frighten you. The orchard is trying to prepare you for what?" the wanderer asked, their voice trembling despite themselves. "For the truth of what brought you here." The clearing seemed to tilt slightly, though the ground did not move. The air thickened with meaning. The wanderer took a steadying breath, then slowly reached into their coat, pulling out the tokens, one by one, the ribbon, the notebook, the silver pendant. "Do these belong to you?" they asked. The keeper's face softened. "No, they belong to the orchard, to the lives it carries." They touched the ribbon lightly, their fingers almost reverent. This was a child's, someone who loved the orchards, trees, as though they were her friends. They touched the notebook. "This belonged to a traveler like you. But unlike you." They sought answers outside themselves, not within. Their fingers hovered above the pendant but did not touch it. And this belonged to a heart that hoped too long. The wanderer felt a strange ache rise in their throat. The keeper's words carried weight, not dramatic, not cruel, but quietly devastating. The keeper lifted their gaze. "The orchard gathers only what people are not ready to let go of." The wanderer looked down at the items in their hands and realized suddenly what the keeper meant. Each token was a piece of unfinished emotion, a promise, a longing, a sorrow that someone had left behind when they could not carry it anymore. The orchard wasn't simply remembering them, it was holding them, keeping them safe. The wanderer felt something stir deep inside, like a locked door shifting, nudged by, a memory they could not yet access. The keeper stepped back, gesturing for the wanderer to follow them beneath the tall apple tree. Its trunk was wide, its bark etched with deep grooves and faint curling patterns that looked almost like veins pulsing with ancient life. "This is the orchard's heart," the keeper said quietly. "Its oldest tree." The wanderer reached out and touched the bark. It was warm, warm enough to feel alive. The moment their hand made contact, a sudden rush of whispers filled the clearing, swirling around them faster than before. Voices layered over voices, different ages, different emotions, all rising in a crescendo that made their pulse quicken. The wanderer inhaled. Sharply, the keeper's voice cut gently through the noise. "Tell me," they said softly, "why did you come here?" The wanderer opened their mouth, but nothing came out. The question echoed inside them, bouncing against the walls of memories they had avoided for a long time. They didn't know the answer, or perhaps they did, and had buried it so deeply that only the orchard's whispers could reach it now. The keeper's expression was calm, patient. The orchard does not call without purpose. Look within. What pain have you brought with you? What burden do you carry? The wanderer felt their breath stutter. The orchard's whispers pressed closer. Leaves rustled above, stirring the light in waves. The air was thick, full, heavy. Memories moved beneath the surface of their thoughts. Shapes without faces, emotions without words, a sense of loss, a sense of leaving, a promise broken or forgotten. Something they once held close, now faded, like the carving on a tree long abandoned. Their voice barely came out. I didn't know. The keeper shook their head gently. You do. But knowing and admitting are different things. The orchard responded with a soft, sorrowful sound, a long ripple of wind through leaves. The wanderer's eyes stung suddenly, and they blinked rapidly. They didn't cry. They hadn't cried in years. They didn't even remember the last time, but the orchard remembered. The keeper stepped back, giving room. You are not ready yet, they said. But you are close. The wanderer felt the truth of those words settle over them like a cloak, heavy, real, inevitable. The keeper looked toward the far edge of the clearing, where the branches darkened into dense shadow. When the orchard shows you your memory, you must not turn away. You must take it into your hands, or this place will not release you. The wanderer's breath trembled. What memory? You will know it when it comes. The keeper's eyes softened. For now, go. There is still more the orchard must show you, and when the time is right, the figure will return. The wanderer felt a shiver run down their spine, not of fear, but of certainty. The figure, the reason the orchard whispered, the shadow they almost recognized. The keeper stepped aside, allowing a path to open, a tunnel of branches shimmering with soft, golden light. Walk, the keeper said gently, and listen, the orchard is waiting. And with one last, grounding breath, the wanderer stepped forward, carrying the weight of the tokens and the weight of their own hidden truth into the next layer of the orchard's quiet heart. The memory that returned. The path that opened before the wanderer shimmered softly, as if dusted with faint golden light. The branches arched overhead to form a tunnel. Not dark, but dim in a comforting way, like an evening hallway where familiar hands once guided them through. The air cooled again, carrying the orchard's layered scents, ripe apples, fresh leaves, the faint sweetness of blossoms, and beneath it all, something older, warmer, like the memory of a hearth long extinguished. The wanderer stepped into the tunnel, each footfall muted by a carpet of pale moss. Behind them, the clearing and the keeper faded into a soft blur of color. Ahead, the tunnel stretched deeper, gently shifting direction, as if bending toward something inevitable, the orchard whispered. Again, not the chaotic swirl of voices they had felt under the ancient apple tree, but something quieter, softer, almost careful, as if preparing them. The wanderer inhaled slowly and kept walking. The tokens inside their coat pressed gently against their chest, their weight a reminder of the stories they now carried. The ribbon, the notebook, the pendant, 3 different lives, 3 different burdens, and yet they all resonated with the same quiet ache. What had the keeper said? The orchard gathers what people are not ready to let go of. A chill wrapped lightly around the wanderer's spine. What, then, had the orchard gathered from them? The thought unsettled them, not because of fear, but because deep down, something in them knew the orchard had gathered something they had avoided looking at, something they had allowed to fade so long ago that it now felt like a shadow without edges. The tunnel widened subtly, the light shifting into a soft lavender hue, like dusk settling before night fully claims the sky. Fireflies appeared in delicate clusters, drifting through the air in slow, glowing spirals. They pulsed in gentle rhythms, illuminating patches of bark and carving patterns onto the path. The wanderer slowed their pace. The fireflies were gathering in front of them, not blocking the way, but guiding it. One firefly drifted closer than the others. Its glow flickered, steadied, then brightened. A thread of light extended from its path, a thin trail that stretched forward like a glowing thread. The wanderer took a breath and followed it as they walked. The orchard around them shifted subtly, the trees growing thinner and taller. Their branches reached upward rather than outward, their leaves glowing faintly like tiny lanterns. The ground changed, the moss gave way to smooth, polished stone, cool underfoot. Even through the wanderer's boots, a low hum began to fill the air like a song just below, hearing a harmony woven into the orchard's breath. It vibrated faintly in the wanderer's bones, and then the hum deepened. The wanderer froze. A shape had appeared far ahead, barely visible through the lavender-tinted mist. A figure dot, not the keeper, the shadow, the same indistinct figure they had glimpsed in the orchard's earlier layers, first distant, then in the mist, then watching from behind the trees. A shape that felt impossibly familiar, though the wanderer could not yet place why. Their heartbeat quickened, the air thickened with meaning, as if the orchard itself waited. The shadow did not move. It stood near a tree whose trunk seemed split by age, the branches curving upward like raised arms. A faint glow surrounded the figure, not bright, but warm, like a memory remembered halfway. The wanderer took a cautious step forward. The shadow didn't retreat. Another step, and another. The mist thinned as they approached, colors brightening. The figure became clearer, still not fully visible, but the outline sharpened. Shoulders, head, hands, a shape that breathed softly, with the gentle rise and fall of a living presence. "Who are you?" the wanderer whispered. The orchard answered. First, a low wind stirred, brushing past them, circling the clearing with deliberate care. Leaves rustled in a pattern that almost resembled words, but not quite, not yet. The figure shifted ever so slightly, not away, but toward the wanderer. The breath the wanderer had been holding slipped out in a trembling exhale. They stepped closer. The shadow's edges softened like mist, dissolving into warm air. The glow surrounding them brightened, revealing faint details. A hand, delicate and slightly trembling, pressed over their chest. Hair that drifted gently, as if caught in a breeze no one else could feel. Clothing soft and simple, worn with familiarity rather than time. The wanderer's throat tightened. Something inside them pulsed, a memory rising just beneath consciousness, like a ripple pushing upward from deep water. The figure raised their head, and though their features were still blurred, something in the gesture struck the wanderer so forcefully they staggered forward, catching themselves on instinct. "Do I?" their voice cracked. "Do I know you?" The orchard fell silent. The figure tilted their head slightly, a fragile motion. The wanderer stepped closer, past the fireflies, past the curve of mist, past the point where fear existed. Only recognition mattered now. Recognition and the ache of almost seeing the truth. When they were finally close enough to touch, the shadow lifted a hand, extending it slowly, carefully, as though it remembered this motion from a long time ago. Their fingers met the wanderer's hand, halfway. A jolt, not painful, but overwhelming, surged through the wanderer's heart. A flood of warmth, a flood of emotion, a flood of something they had buried so deeply that it had almost turned to dust. The orchard whispered, then, not around them, but through them. The figure's form sharpened, not fully, but enough to reveal what the wanderer had forgotten. A face, softened by time, eyes full of quiet warmth, lips curved in a familiar half-smile that used to greet them at the end of long days, fingers that once brushed, theirs as naturally as breath. The wanderer's knees weakened, their voice broke on a whisper, "You." The figure's form flickered gently, the glow intensifying before settling again. They didn't speak, but the orchard spoke for them, weaving the memory into sound. The hum deepened into words. "Do you remember why you left?" The wanderer shut their eyes tightly, the weight of the question striking them like a wave. Memories they had avoided for years surged forward, fragments crashing together. A promise made at the base of an old tree, a separation that had never been meant to last. A voice saying, "Come back when you're ready." The wanderer fell to their knees. Their chest hurt, not physically, but with a hollow ache that felt like a door opening after being locked too long. "I didn't forget you," the wanderer whispered. "I thought I moved on. I thought the memory would fade on its own." The figure knelt too, though not quite touching the ground. They reached out, their hand hovering above the wanderer's shoulder, the warmth radiating like quiet understanding. The orchard whispered again, "You did not let go. You hid it." Tears slipped down the wanderer's cheeks, sudden, unstoppable, raw. They hadn't cried in years, but now the orchard pulled every buried emotion upward, refusing to allow silence anymore. "I wasn't ready," they whispered. "I wasn't ready to look at the pieces, so I locked them away. I thought time would soften them." The figure leaned closer, their glow wrapping around the wanderer like a cloak of memory. "You carried the sorrow with you," the wanderer nodded, sobbing quietly. "I know." "And that sorrow," a voice whispered softly, whether from the figure or the orchard, "the wanderer didn't know is what brought you here." The wanderer looked up, eyes stinging. "Then what do I do now?" The orchard's light brightened, the figure's form steadied, and the answer came warm and sure. "Face the memory, hold it, and then choose whether to keep it or release it." The wanderer inhaled shakily. The orchard shifted around them, as if preparing for the final unveiling. Leaves fell softly from above, like quiet blessings. The mist curled closer. The air thickened, charged with meaning. The figure reached out once more, offering their hand, this time steady, clear, waiting. The wanderer hesitated only a moment before placing their hand in theirs. Immediately, the orchard responded. The ground brightened beneath them. Every tree in sight lit with soft internal glow. The air pulsed with one deep, resonant breath. And then the memory came. Not a fragment, not a whisper, the full memory, rising like dawn. It washed over the wanderer in a wave of light, the real truth of why they had come, what they had lost, and what the orchard had awakened within them. The wanderer gasped. They were not ready, but the memory no longer cared. It had come, and nothing would remain the same. The heart of the orchard. The moment stretched, as if the orchard itself held its breath. The memory that had returned in a flood now swirled around the wanderer, pressing against their chest, warming and heavy with recognition. The figure beside them remained steady, a calm presence in the eye of the storm of emotions. It was no longer mist, no longer shadow, but a reflection of something lost, waiting, patient. The orchard had drawn them here to this place for a reason. The air shifted gently, brushing against the wanderer's cheeks like a hand brushing away hesitation. Light spilled in soft streams through the high branches, dusting the clearing in golden amber tones. Leaves rustled quietly, as if whispering encouragement, and every rustle carried a resonance that echoed in the wanderer's bones. Every sound was deliberate, every movement purposeful. The orchard was alive in a way that transcended perception. It was not only trees and soil, water and mist, it was memory and feeling, grief and joy, loss and rediscovery, all held in one vast, breathing body. The wanderer let their eyes trace the edges of the clearing. It was no longer simply a place within the orchard. It was the orchard's heart itself, and the heart had opened to them. The figure beside them, whose form had become more defined with each step, raised a hand slowly. It was an invitation, not a gesture of command. The wanderer exhaled shakily and lifted their hand to meet it. The instant their fingers touched, a warmth radiated through their arm and into their chest, grounding them. The weight of the tokens they carried, the ribbon, the notebook, the pendant, seemed to pulse in reply, each one whispering its story in small, vivid bursts. The ribbon fluttered faintly in their pocket. Memories of laughter and running. Barefoot through sunlit grass surfaced the scent of apples, heavy on the air. The joy of freedom held in small, golden moments. The notebook vibrated gently against their side. Fragments of thoughts and sketches and unspoken questions arising. The pendant pulsed with a quiet ache, a memory of hope that had been left behind, unfinished, unclaimed. And then the figure spoke. Not aloud, not in words the wanderer could hear with their ears, but in a way that resonated deep inside, in the center of their chest, where memory and emotion collided. You are ready now. Are you willing to take it fully? The wanderer swallowed, hard. Every fiber of their being seemed to ask for time to resist the flood of recognition that threatened to consume them. Yet the very orchard itself seemed to urge them forward. There was no cruelty here, no threat, only truth, patient and unflinching. Yes, the wanderer whispered, the words small but firm. I'm ready. The figure nodded slowly. At once, the clearing shifted. The fireflies gathered in luminous spirals, forming arcs of soft, radiant light that moved around the wanderer and the figure like slow-moving constellations. The trees leaned slightly closer, their branches intertwining above to create a natural dome. The orchard's whispers rose once more, but now they were harmonized, resonating in chords that carried both sorrow and solace. It was not chaos. It was understanding. It was recognition. It was home. The memory surged forward. It was not a single moment, but a cascade, a river of experiences the wanderer had carefully set aside. The first memory came softly, a small hand brushing theirs under a sun-drenched apple tree, laughter spilling into the warm air. Then came a farewell, hesitant, incomplete, whispered promises that were never fulfilled. The wanderer's chest tightened as each fragment collided with the next, the pieces assembling into a vivid mosaic of truth. I remember they breathed, voice breaking. I remember everything. The figure's hand squeezed theirs, gentle, steady. Then let it flow. Hold it, accept it, and then release what you must. The orchard responded with a wave of warmth that rippled across the ground, stirring leaves into gentle spirals. Tiny golden motes of light drifted upward, catching on the mist and glinting like stars. The stream from the hidden alcove, now distant, but audible through the rustle of the trees, seemed to hum in harmony with the unfolding scene. Tears streamed freely down the wanderer's cheeks. They felt grief and joy, sorrow and love, hope and regret, all converging in a tide that threatened to overwhelm, yet carried them rather than breaking them. Every note of every whisper, every movement of every leaf, every vibration in the soil beneath their boots spoke of the orchard's patience, its understanding. It had preserved these moments until they were ready to confront them fully. The tokens in their pockets shifted softly, almost as if responding to the memory's return. The ribbon pulsed gently, and the wanderer felt the touch of small, joyful hands that had once tied it. The notebook vibrated again, the sketches and unfinished words revealing themselves as living thoughts, urging the wanderer to see beyond what was written. And the pendant pressed warmly against their chest, radiating a quiet hope, a promise that the past need not define the future. The figure spoke again, voice like a gentle stream flowing directly into their heart. Now, release what is yours to leave behind. The wanderer exhaled, slowly letting the flood of memory cascade fully, pouring through their mind and heart. Grief that had lingered for years, hope that had been paused too long, love that had been hidden away. They let it all surface, felt it, embraced it, and finally began to release it. The orchard shifted once more. The trees seemed to sway in time with the wanderer's breath. The fireflies spun upward, coalescing into arcs of light that illuminated every leaf, every petal, every blade of grass. The clearing vibrated with a quiet intensity, as though the orchard itself rejoiced. And then, slowly, the flood receded. The tears subsided. The rush of memory settled into a calm pool, and the wanderer felt a lightness, a clarity they had not known for years. The tokens in their pocket were no longer burdensome, but gentle reminders, vessels carrying gratitude, memory, and hope. The figure beside them smiled, their presence radiant yet gentle. You have faced it, you have remembered, and you have accepted. That is all the orchard asks. The wanderer nodded, voice trembling but certain. I understand now. The orchard was never just a place. It was everything I needed to see, to feel, to hold, and finally to let go. The figure inclined their head once more. It is not goodbye, not yet. But your journey here is complete, as much as it can be for now. The clearing seemed to sigh. The orchard's whispers softened into a gentle hum, a lullaby of leaves brushing against each other, a song of acceptance and peace. The golden motes of light drifted upward, dispersing slowly into the higher branches, leaving the air luminous yet calm. The wanderer stepped back, still clutching the tokens. Their heart felt full, yet unburdened. Every ache, every hidden sorrow, every fragment of joy that had once been lost was now honored, held gently in memory rather than buried. The figure began to fade, first into the golden haze of the clearing, then into the soft tendrils of mist. Not gone completely, but returning to the orchard itself, to the memory, the whispers, the enduring presence that would always be a part of this place. The wanderer fell to their knees once more, letting the quiet settle into them. The orchard was still alive around them, humming softly. The wind lifted faintly, carrying scents of blossoms, of water, of sunlight, all intertwined in a comforting embrace. The hidden stream murmured faintly in the distance. The trees swayed gently, and somewhere, far above, a small bird called, its voice simple and pure. The wanderer rose slowly. Their steps felt lighter, more deliberate. The tokens they carried no longer weighed on them. They were reminders of the journey, not chains of sorrow. The ribbon, the notebook, and the pendant each seemed to shine softly, glowing in response to the peace the wanderer had found. The path back through the orchard was no longer uncertain. The trees arched overhead like guiding arms. The mist parted gently to reveal the way forward, and every whisper, every rustle, every faint hum of memory seemed to encourage them onward. Before leaving the heart of the orchard, the wanderer paused one last time beneath the oldest tree. Fingers pressed against its warm bark, they whispered a silent promise to remember, to honor, to carry forward the lessons learned, the memories retrieved, the emotions faced and accepted. The orchard, in turn, seemed to hum softly, as if acknowledging the vow. Step by step, the wanderer began to move away from the central clearing. Light filtered through the leaves in soft beams, painting the path ahead in warm golds and gentle greens. Mist curled around their ankles like familiar hands, guiding, comforting, ensuring they would not stumble. Every leaf, every stone, every hidden whisper had led them here, and now would guide them out, carrying them back to the world beyond the orchard. When they finally emerged from the orchard's deepest layers, the air of the wider world felt brighter, lighter, but no less vivid than the orchard itself. The sunlight sparkled on dew-dusted grass. The wind carried a gentle fragrance of blossoms, and somewhere in the distance, a small brook sang a quiet tune. The wanderer breathed deeply, feeling a clarity that had been absent for years, the weight of old grief replaced with understanding and calm. Your journey through the quiet orchard has come to an end, but the peace remains with you. Remember the gentle whispers, the soft light, the flowing stream, and the warmth that filled your chest. Carry this calm into your dreams tonight. Good night, dear listener, and may the orchard's quiet magic stay with you until the morning light.